Welcome everyone. This is Supper Club Live and I'm Colleen Hiscock, the owner and chef at Java Jack's in beautiful Rocky Harbor, Newfoundland and Labrador. It's so wonderful to have you join me this evening. For the next hour, we are going to spend some time together. We're going to cook and make this wonderful meal for ourselves and our families in the space of about an hour. For those of you who are joining for the first time, this really the opportunity to have a social experience where we're going to cook and learn a few things after 30 years in the food industry as a food scientist, and now for the last 5 as a chef at our restaurant in Rocky Harbor. I hope that we can share some ideas and look to improve our cooking. If nothing else, have a great meal together. For those who are joining me again, thank you for joining. I really appreciate you coming on with me. And tonight, I'm so excited. I have to tell you, I was delighted to be able to kind of put this together. I always worried about a marinated steak, but flank steak is so easy to do. We are going to do beef steak or beefsteak if you're French, but most of the French call it steak. Steak frite. So potatoes and steak. And who doesn't love potato and steaks? And we're going to put a token salad together, particularly anyone who's on a keto diet. Certainly this would be compliant. It's the cabbage and broccoli salad. We're going to learn to make a mayonnaise. If you haven't done mayonnaise at home by yourself or made it at home, homemade, still never go back. It's so easy and you'll be so surprised about how wonderful it tastes. And it is the basis for all kinds of things. I'll tell you a little bit about this steak frite. So a friend of mine had said to my daughters when they were going to Paris that go to this place, this restaurant. It's a steakhouse. They do steak frite. You have to line up. It's called Le Relais de l'Entrecôte. Now, really, they are serving some of the best parts of the animal and making it taste delicious. All you can eat. Now you're only going to, they say all you can eat, but really it's 2 servings. But you end up eating 2 servings and you're quite full. And the food is outstanding. It is, they actually do use some wonderful thin steak, particularly from the rib section of the animal, and you get some fries. They serve it to you. You want some more, go again. There's this wonderful sauce, the green sauce. It's more like a chimichurri sauce that goes over it. It was outstanding. So my daughters went, they loved it, absolutely loved it. Myself and my husband went, we lined up, we thought it was outstanding. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to bring that to you this evening. So let me know if you're there. Be really great to know who's come on with us, and we can get started. And we're going to start with the steak first. We're going to marinate it for only about 20 minutes. We don't need to do a whole lot with the flank steak. I do have a dish along the side here, and we're going to do some prep over in this section. And then we're going to work on the potatoes. I'm going to talk about potatoes tonight. A little bit more science around the potatoes, and then we'll get into making the mayonnaise, and then we'll make the salad. And then after that, we'll cook the steak, stick it in the oven. So in the meantime, we're going to turn on our oven to 375. We'll turn it up a little bit later, but we'll start off at 375 so that those potatoes are not going to be too crisp. Hello, Kathy. Thank you for joining. So we're going to turn on our oven, 375, get it going, get it started. Okay. And so those of you who are joining joining me, I'm so glad that you came. We're going to turn on the oven to 375. That's just to get it preheated. So when we do the potatoes, it's steak and potatoes tonight. So steak and frite. It's a French bistro we're going to make tonight, and we're going to get started with marinating the steak first. So first I want to show you a little bit about the steak. Let me run to the fridge and get that out. I've done a flank steak. Now, if you didn't buy yourself a flank steak, don't worry about it. If you have yourself sirloin or a flank or any other, really, I wanted to show you a little bit about how flank kind of really works for a quick meal. It is always undervalued. It's that's it. That's the picture. So this is the part of the animal at the base. Now, here's how you know if your steak is going to be tough. If you look at sort of how this picture sets up, if the animal is working the muscles, those muscles are going to be tough. A lot of connective tissue, they have worked them a lot. For the muscles that are not are not usually well worked, so those would be the back muscles. So you can see the rib and the short loin and the sirloin and the tenderloin. Those are areas that don't get a lot of work. Down at the bottom, the brisket also can tend to be tender, but it contains a lot of fat. It doesn't have a lot of movement. It doesn't have kind of a big function. The same thing with the plate and the flank. So you can see down at the belly of this animal, that's where the flank comes from. It's thin, so you don't have a lot, and that's why it's always just a hint more expensive than some of the other less interesting cuts. So because it's at the belly, there is only really one flank, and you don't get a whole lot of them, and it's not huge. It's not really a big muscle. It's more like a flap, and so it does contain silver skin on the outside and some connective tissue, and we're going to work. We're going to work with what that animal tissue is in order to be able to make this wonderful meal. So it's thin. I'll show you. Yep, here it is in terms of the flank steak. So this is a small flank here. Compliments to New World beef down in St. David's. Really happy that they have them here. You can see there's all of this real striations of that meat. It's thin. So we're going to sear it off and then just cook it enough that we have hit the internal temperature for medium rare. And so it will not take long. We also don't need to cook it. We also don't need to marinate it for a long time either. So that's why for 20 minutes, we're going to give it a little flavor. We're going to break down some of the external connective tissue, create the ability to have some protein extraction on the outside, and be able to sear that off real nice, give you some great color and some wonderful flavor. So now, nobody's going to eat this big piece here. Hi, Gail. Hi, Gail from PEI. Thank you for joining again this week. So what we're going to do with this flank steak is I'm going to cut it with the grain, because when we go to eat it, we're going to cut against the grain. And that way you're cutting against those fibers, the connective tissue, the things that make it tough. And you can see that there is some connective tissue already in this meat here. And that's what usually makes your meat tough. So we're going to cut it this way to marinate it. And then we are going to cut it against the grain when we go to serve it. It's almost as if the knife has been teeth for you. So it cuts it down. You don't have to work so hard. So I'm going to put this in my dish. I'm going to turn around and we're going to make the marinade that goes with it. I love mustard marinade, and we are going to start off with some vinegar. Now, I think I said a white balsamic vinegar, rare to find in these parts. Actually, I found this at Coleman's. It's a sweeter vinegar. You know, vinegar is formed from fermentation, and particularly from sugars. But it also will be fermented from other different sources, such as rice vinegar. If you haven't tried rice vinegar, try it. It is too. It's probably the sweetest of the ones I have here. If you are using white wine vinegar, as I suggested, 1/3 cup, you might want to add just a teaspoon of sugar to add a little sweetness to it so it's not so harsh. The vinegar, the purpose of the acid for the vinegar, again, is to break down the connective tissue, but I don't want it to sit in it so long. And if you were to put vinegar directly on the meat, you will see it deteriorate almost immediately, and it'll turn white. That's called denaturation. Denaturation of the proteins happening with the acid on it. So we are going to add a couple of things to it. We are going to add a couple of emulsifiers and flavors. So one is our mustard. A tablespoon of mustard and a tablespoon of grainy mustard. I like the two of these together. One gives me a little visual and it gives you great flavor. Dijon is, there's nothing like it. I'm just going to mix that all up here. Okay, and then stream in the oil. And the oil is like the buffer against the acid for the meat. So we're just going to do this. Now you can use this interestingly. You can add a little sweetness, some herbs to this. This can be your marinade. And if you go on the website for the Paris Le Relais de l'Entrecôte, which is what our dinner tonight is patterned after, that beef steakhouse in Paris, you'll actually see they have a mustard vinaigrette that they put on their salad. And this is the base for that. So you can use this, add a little sweetness, put some herbs in here, salt, pepper, we're done. I'm getting this to emulsify. I want all of that fat to be encapsulated here with the with the aqueous. How's that? How's that looking for you? Some of you probably have already done the mustard vinaigrette and put it in there. And don't be afraid to, if you go to the grocery store and you're a bit of a hurry, go and get yourself one of those craft vinaigrette bottles. They even on the side of it say, yeah, you can use this for a marinade. You have some wonderful flavors. For some tougher cuts, of course, you're going to need a lot more time. But for others, you know what? Just adding a little external flavor, and you can have it for your chicken or your beef. It doesn't matter. Okay, so for mine, as you can see, right, I have it all emulsified. I want to make sure that that oil is fully emulsified. I have a 2-to-1 ratio. Oftentimes, if you're doing a vinaigrette, it's a 1-to-3 ratio, 1 vinegar, 3 oil. But I have a 1-to-2 ratio here. I really want to make sure that that acid doesn't deteriorate my muscle. So we'll bring this over to the meat. We're gonna have a little taste of that, and I think I have a little salt, a little pepper. Let's taste it first. I always like to taste some of these things and just make sure that. Oh, now mine I used. Hi, Kathy. Mine's the wine vinegar. Add a teaspoon of sugar if you use the wine vinegar, no problem. It's the same. And if you have the opportunity to buy a couple of different vinegars, taste them. You'll see that they go from very sharp to very sweet. And you can use those at your leisure. So if you're looking for a sweet vinaigrette, or if you're looking for a very savory vinaigrette, then you can manipulate that fabulously. All I'm going to do, very simply, pour it all over. And we're going to wait about 20 minutes. I think we have 20 minutes, so we're going to wait around that. It'll take us that long to get the potatoes in the oven. And we're going to do the meat last, essentially, because it won't take very long. It's thin, and you know what? We don't want to cook it too well done. Okay, so I'm going to turn my meat over. I poured it over top, and now I'm going to put it over. Hi, Bev. Nice that you could join us again. How's the weather in Riverview? And hope you're staying safe. I think up in that Moncton area, they've had a few concerns. Okay, so just make sure that your meat is all covered now with your marinade. And I'm just going to put that to the side, and then we'll get started on potatoes. So, and then once we get kind of this cleared up a little bit. That's amazing, right? So we've got one part already started and done. And to get the meat out of the way, I'm going to wash my hands because, meat is can carry other different bacteria. So, okay, so now potatoes. I pulled out my food chemistry book today, and I wanted to share with you a little bit about potatoes. Who doesn't go to the grocery store and look at that plethora of potatoes that they have lined up there and go, okay, I'm buying the cheap ones because I don't know what to do with the other ones. And then when you get them home and you go, oh, my mashed potatoes doesn't taste like what I wanted. They're sort of waxy. They, picked the wrong ones, or they didn't have the russets there. And so now my potatoes are not dry. I know my mother-in-law really always liked dry potatoes. And so those are the russet potatoes. So what I did was I actually picked up a pile of potatoes because I wanted to show you. There are so many out there, and I know I have a few pictures to show you. So, we could have a look at the russet potatoes that are there. And, you know, that's typically what you would see in the grocery store, russet potatoes. So that's what I have here. That's what we're going to use tonight. If you don't have them, fine. The other ones will work. There's some that are sort of multi-purpose. That would be Yukon Gold. I'm sure you see them in the grocery store. So we have a picture of a Yukon Gold. I don't have any Yukon Gold here. Yukon Gold in the grocery store are sort of a multi-purpose type of potato, as is white potato. But for most, particularly, you know, if you grew up in Newfoundland, white potatoes tend to be a little bit too wet for the type of food that traditionally we like to have. So we've got white potatoes. They are fairly thin-skinned. And then we have, you know, red potatoes, and then these ones called creamers. There's the red potatoes. Yeah, so you can see them. Some of them actually have red bags. Some of them are still in the paper bags. But these creamers, and these are becoming much more prevalent, right? These are typically the potatoes, along with these, are the ones that you would use in potato salad or soups where they don't break down. How many of you made soup and the next day couldn't find the potatoes? I know that happens often, particularly making chowder, and you go to stir it and you stir it and it's gone, right? The potatoes are gone. So it's important to kind of know which potatoes you're going to, and they're not overly expensive these days that you can't have, you know, especially if you're eating potatoes, a couple of the other types. So, so what I wanted to share with you this evening, creamer potatoes and red potatoes, great for soups, great for gratin, great for potato salads, where they are going to stay in their own shape. So why? So things like potatoes like russets have a lot more starch in them. And inside the starch, there's two components. One is called amylose, and the other is called amylopectin. Now, if you have more amylose in there, then they are going to expel water. They're also going to hold on to a lot more water. And these potatoes, these russets, actually do that. They're drier. They have a thicker skin. They're great for baked potatoes. So these guys have a lot more amylose comparatively than the red potatoes or the creamers. These guys will hold on to a lot more moisture. That's right. The russet is good for mashed potatoes, for the fries, for the roasted that I'm going to make tonight, baked. And would you believe, because it becomes drier, it's good for gnocchi. You can control the amount of moisture that you put in there and create that. Essentially, these potatoes can disintegrate into mush. Wonderful for thickening for soups. In fact, I usually use potatoes as my thickener for all my soups. I never use a flour. I don't add anything other special but a potato and let it disintegrate, or, you know, yeah. The other thing I like to do, particularly on my mashed potatoes, is I'll strain them, and you can strain them so you can get some of the sugars off them after they're cooked. But I actually like to keep a little bit of the water in there. And I know the Italians like to use pasta water, but why not potato water to help give you lovely, thick, creamy, beautiful mashed potatoes? And russets are going to give you that. Okay, so let's get started on what we're going to do here. I think, the other thing about potatoes we need to talk about, I'm going to wash these and scrub them up. We're not going to peel them. So if you have white potatoes or so on, don't forget white potatoes and Yukon Gold are the multi-purpose ones. And so, you know, you can use them for pretty much anything. I'm going to scrub these up. I got a few extra people coming for supper tonight, so I'm going to make a lot of fries. And the way that we make these, man, I can never seem to make enough of them. My daughters and my husband really like this preparation. It's not a deep fry. The outside of the oil on the outside helps to increase the temperature on the outside, so it crisps them up nicely. So, okay, I've got my potatoes scrubbed. So what we're going to do is we're going to create sort of taters with these. I'm going to move back here a little bit so you can see. Cut in the center, down the center. We're going to make, remember my concept's always around the same size food. It'll cook the same if it's the same size. Don't worry about, remember these here, we will expose some of the starches in here, amylose in particular, and it'll start to oxidize. So we're going to get these in the pan as quickly as possible and in the bowl. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of oil already. As soon as the potatoes, the oil gets on the potatoes and coats them, it'll stop the oxidation because it'll take over, right? Oxygen, the oil will take the place of the oxygen. So, we'll just give those a little stir as we put them in. So we'll continue to do that. Again, we're just going to make them so that they're all even, like taters. Mary Brown's knew what she was doing when she made her taters. And so you can make a lot like this. And it's a whole lot easier. On the elongated side, if you have a big potato like this, cut it in half and cut it in half again, and then lay it down and then cut your wedges into it. Super simple. Any blemishes, cut that off. Nobody wants to eat it. It's not bad for you, but nobody eats that. So, okay, here we go. Add those in. It only takes a minute. This is a fast meal. I'm telling you, you will love it. Potatoes, so potatoes also are good for you. So I know we always knew that, but let me tell you, they're some of the most nutritious food on the planet. And so vitamin A, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, so all sort of those B vitamins. And you see those on the cereal boxes where they've added it to. Well, potatoes already have that inherent in them. You don't have to worry about it being added in there. And vitamin C. And you know what? We never seem to get enough of a vitamin C these days. And so you can always add that. So potatoes have all kinds of wonderful nutrition. And of course, the starch is a good source of energy for us. It converts to sucrose or energy, and then will convert to glycogen so your system can use it. If you're not using it all, then it's going to find its way to your hips. It'll convert to fat eventually if you're not using it. I have a whole pile of these wonderful little taters here. How's everybody doing? Everybody okay out there? So I love the idea of potatoes for lots of different occasions. And in my cookbook, I actually have dedicated a chapter, which I'm working on wow potatoes. Like how to do potatoes. They're so prevalent. Back in the 1800s, our ancestors, of course, suffered because they didn't have potatoes. And in northern climates, the potatoes are a staple. And the reason that they're a staple is because you're able to store them at sub-zero temperatures and they don't go bad. And so for us folks here, it really is a good thing. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more oil to mine. Probably a couple of more tablespoons. It just depends on how many potatoes you have. The objective is to coat them. I always say, you watch on TV and you'll see some of those famous celebrity chefs and they're flipping the food. Take your time. This is important. It's important that the oil get all the way coated on them. It's going to be fully equivalently distributed, and then the heat will also penetrate equivalently. They'll be all done at the same time. A little bit of salt and pepper. I think I have about a teaspoon, but of course I have a few extra potatoes tonight. Go ahead and add yourself a couple extra potatoes. Why not? You'll love these. I have some Italian seasoning salt here. I am going to put in about a teaspoon of that. Don't be afraid to add a little extra salt to your dinner tonight because there is such a difference between the size of the potato and how much salt you put on the external surface area. So don't be afraid that you've put too much salt on there. I'm telling you, they taste great. a little bit of oil, a little salt, pepper, and all of this seasoning on here. So what I'm going to do, I put some parchment on my baking pan, put them all out here. Make sure that you have stirred them and coated them evenly. If you feel like tossing them, sometimes they go onto the floor, but you know, that's, you just pick them up, wash them off, and or throw them out, and you know, try and stir them. Okay, mine are ready to go in the oven. Got it at 375. About halfway through, I'm going to turn it up to 400 and get it ready for our flank steak. Okay, but there we go. That's great. So that's potatoes. Irish potato famine of 1845 to 49, I think that happened. And now we have potatoes again. Still a staple for us in the northern climates. So I don't know, the Parisians like their potatoes as well. Okay, so we'll just clean up a quick minute here, move my potatoes out of the way, and we are going to turn our attention to make some mayonnaise. I'd like to know if anyone out there has made their own mayonnaise, and would it be your first time? It would be interesting to know that. Okay, just get this stuff cleaned up. How we doing? Got some extra folks out there? I'm sure Bev's got her marinated already, and we'll get going. I'm going to flip my board here and get it ready for the vegetables that we're going to cut. I can't wait to show you this particular salad. It's so great. Okay, yeah, over here. So what I have over here now is my bowl. We are going to separate our eggs. I have 2 eggs. If you look at some of the textbooks out there, they will say 1 egg yolk. Around here, sometimes the eggs are not actually that fresh. And so, interestingly, the quality of the egg yolk is diminished. And so it won't hold the oil as well. It doesn't, it's almost like the lecithin that's in here will be, it doesn't have the same power that it used to have. So I have 2. I want to make sure that you get this wonderful, thick, beautiful mayonnaise. It's an emulsion we're going to make. It's the combining of fat and oil together. And you want to make sure that you have all of the egg white out of there. It'll disturb your emulsion, not wildly, because we've got a couple of other emulsifiers in there too. So that's my egg. I am glad I got that. So I've got a little bit of oil here all set to go, 3/4 of a cup. Egg yolks will take on all kinds of oil, fresh egg yolks. Some of you won't have to actually add any. But before we start adding some of the ingredients, I have a little bit of Dijon here, a teaspoon Dijon. I have a tablespoon of lemon juice I squeezed. If you have it out of a bottle, then use that. It's fabulous. It's all lemon juice and it works. Essentially, it's an aqueous solution. A little bit of acidity helps with some flavor and salt perception. But it doesn't matter if you have, it's a little bit of water. The acidity also drops the pH just slightly and helps to expand that egg. I want you to see this change color. And this is that bright yellow that you saw. You're just going to mix it for, let's see, if we count to 30 together, then it should change color. We were in France and we did a little cooking class and she made us go very, very slowly and it worked too. I like to see the color change. For me, it's, I tend to be a bit of a speed demon, like to go fast. So, and well, why not have a little workout while you're at it? So I'm curious to know if people have made their own mayonnaise. I'm telling you, you won't go back. It's so easy. My cousin Julia the other week. She called me. She said, oh, I don't know what to make. I said, oh, do you have an egg? How about an egg? How about some oil? She grabbed some Dijon mustard, and over the phone, she made mayonnaise. She said she had to go out. She was had to go out and pick it up. I said, no, stay home. You don't need to go. You've got all the ingredients in your fridge. And there you are. And you know what? It'll last for quite a while. You'll make a cup of oil, a cup of mayonnaise here. You don't need to buy a big jar of it. This will be a cup. We're going to add probably half of that oil in here now. Sorry, that is not oil. That was lemon juice. And you can see it change. I'm going to add that Dijon mustard in here now. Teaspoon Dijon mustard. You saw my eggs change color. Dijon mustard. Voila. And stir that all up. Make sure it's all, the chemistry term is called mixable. But make sure it's all homogeneous, mixed, uniform. You can add mixable to your vocabulary if you don't already use that word. I don't know, sometimes that end up speaking that way. Okay, now, how we do this, technique is everything. We're going to add a drip. Okay, drip, mix it. Drip and mix it. What's happening is we are dispersing the fat molecules. And, you know, whisk can do a really great job with that. Oop, a smidge. Okay, and we're going to want to see it get thick. And you can see it start to go now. Oh, did you notice I put a little mat underneath there? Because you're going to use two hands to, you're going to whisk and pour. I'm going to change hands here. Maybe you can see that better. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Okay. Just pour it in. And look, you can already see that there's viscosity in my mayonnaise. Beauty mayonnaise. Oh my gosh. And I can feel it against my whisk that I've created this wonderful, thick mixture. I mean, yeah, you can eat a lot of oil in this form. I mean, you'd be surprised. That's how I feel about Rice Krispie squares. I can eat a lot of mayonnaise. Eat a lot of marshmallows in Rice Krispie form. But so you can end up eating a lot. Look how thick and beautiful that is. Okay, I hope yours is like that too. Because that's not going to be the base for everything. And I needed some mayonnaise, so here we are. Have some mayonnaise. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to pour in the rest of that lemon juice. We're going to taste this. Oh, I can't wait to see yours. I can't wait to see yours. Ooh. See how thick it is? Mm-hmm. Now mine needs a little salt. Wow, that's really nice. Now, if you used olive oil, so I used a canola oil. That's about a half a teaspoon of salt I put in there. If you use olive oil, you know, if your olive oil is well kept in a dark place, in something that is not going to have the light into it, then it probably will stay good. I know what I mean by that. It won't be rancid. So you can get some off flavors with some of the olive oils out there. You know, extra virgin olive oil particularly is supposed to be very light in terms of flavor. I find sometimes though it just eats bitter for me, and so I use a vegetable oil. I have used tonight. I have used a canola oil. Happened to be on sale. Looked good. So you know, produit de Québec, préparé au Québec or something. So you know, canola is a Canadian. Product, so I'd be glad to support. Okay, I'm doing good here. So I'm going to move back over. Now we've got the basis for our salad. So come with me over here. Now what we're going to do with this salad is going to be nothing short of miraculous, quite frankly. We have, you know, some wonderful broccoli. We are going to save the broccoli florets. We're going to use the stem. I know. You say, yeah, that's unusual. You know, if you don't use it, then here's an opportunity to kind of use everything of it. Sometimes you can just buy the florets, which is fine, and that's all you need. But we're going to try and use this up. I think I had a cup of these and 2 cups of this. So hopefully you washed your vegetables. Certainly I did. Take a moment if you didn't, and we'll get started. What I'm going to do with this now, I'm going to move this out of the way, is these broccoli stalks. I find that the outside can be a bit hard. So, you know, take a little carrot peeler and just peel the outside of it to get some of the spurs off and the outside hard exterior. Then, you know, we still have some good fibers that are on there. Nice sharp carrot peeler. I'm just going to peel that off. Okay, same here. I can hear my husband in the other room over there. And we'll get these. And now you're going to get, you know, super fiber. It's going to be wonderful. These are vegetables that are high alkalinity. So, you know, reducing inflammation in your system is really kind of great. So after, you know, many years of studying this stuff, I get to share that with you. Hopefully you feel it. If you're feeling you've got something swollen, or you're feeling that your arthritis is acting up, vegetables are your friend. Okay, so I have some of this over here. Now I'm just going to show you, we're just going to slice this up. I'm going to wash this again just to get some of the external stuff on it. I want it to be thin, and I want it to be, so I'm going to cut it right down the middle. And then I'm going to cut it sort of in batons. So, you know, about 1 inch, take off the end. That was no good. And we're just going to give that a very fine slice. Rock your knife. Again, we don't want to go crazy. We're not chopping contest. Put that in here. So, you know, just thin amounts. Nice thin, call it julienne maybe. But it's not as precise as julienne. So just nice slices, and all that mayonnaise and that dressing that's going to go on there will be fabulous. Now, for those of you in the area, I want to show you now, once we get a few moments, I want to show you my new labels. I'm so excited. My bakery mix labels came in today, and I am delighted. So we've got a couple of new products added to it, a couple of products that we have in market without the sort of official Java Jacks labels on there. And I don't have them yet up on the website for purchase, but that's only a matter of days, and I'll have some of those up there too, and you can order them online. They won't be everywhere. In St. John's, they'll be at Hillhead House, and in Carbonear at the Painted Mango. And hopefully we'll find them at Coleman's, but we'll be at the Christmas show. Now, you see this slice here? We're going to cut that down again. Just nice batons, right? We don't want to have big chunks of stuff in our salad tonight. It's supposed to be a slaw, and so you want to have fine amounts of that. So just this type of, you know, batons. Nice amount of slaw. So you know, big chunks of stuff. Big chunks of stock. We want them to be, let's say, pre-chewed. Can you say that? Maybe? Maybe not quite that. But lovely connection between the broccoli, the mayonnaise, the lemon mayonnaise, because it's going to be super amped up lemon mayonnaise that we're going to have in this beautiful slaw. And then you can add a little sweetness to it if you'd like. You can add some garlic to it. This slaw dressing is super easy and very, very versatile. I have used it with eggs and in some of my other salads, base for, of course, mayonnaise is the base for all kinds of different dressings, poppy seed dressing, poppy seed avocado dressing, so good. Those are there. Also, you know, we do have a couple of, you will see this, you can see me make mayonnaise on the YouTube channel, and how to make mayonnaise, how to make garlic aioli. You know, add that with your cod tongues or your fish cakes, and you've got yourself an amazing meal. So they're on our YouTube channel, Chef Colleen Hiscock, and you can see them there. I'd really love it for subscribers there to be able to provide me some comments. We love it. Love it. You'll also see our turkey videos there. Christmas is coming. It's amazing how close it is. I mean, Christmas is out. Christmas is out there. You know, everyone's buying. Couldn't buy a Christmas tree this week. It's crazy. They're all out of stock. I'd say that's about a cup that I have there, which is what I had said. Now we're going to chop up 2 cups of our cabbage. If you'll notice, I kept the base on here, and it'll keep everything together. Same thing as the way you cut your onions. Just nip off just the root a little bit. It'll hold it intact as you're trying to chop it. So I washed this all fairly thoroughly, got through all of these ribs and different leaves. Want to make sure that I have it nice and clean for my guests tonight. I don't want anybody getting sick. I'm actually going to cut this in half to make it easier for me to chop up here. Sometimes it takes a little bit of energy to get these things done. Nice and thin. You can use a food processor to put this in there. I've done that in the past. I didn't really love the way that the food processor really chops it up. But, you know, the coleslaw can be in many, many forms. And you've seen some of the creamy coleslaw out there where it's very, very fine cabbage. And you get wonderful distribution of flavor and texture. And it's a totally different experience. So just chop up enough now. We said 2 cups. And that'll get us a lot for our people tonight, for supper. And then we should be ready to have a look at our steak and go from there. Great. Okay, that's about what I need, I think. Oh, it looks great. Put all this back in here. Ooh, that looks great. Now, so I've got all this in here. I really need a spoon. I'm going to add lemon zest to it. So a full lemon zest on the outside. If you don't have a lemon zester, oh boy, gee whiz, it's hard to kind of peel it off, quite frankly. Lemon zest, I mean, lemon juice is good on its own, no doubt. And certainly the lemon juice from a lemon is a little bit more concentrated than what you get in the bottles. So, but the lemon zest has a burst of flavor. Now, it can be a bit bitter with too much, but it can really enhance the overall flavor of your lemon flavor. And it'll also provide you a bit of salt perception. So if you're trying to reduce your salt, lemon is the way to do it. It will replace the feeling or the taste of salt. Hi, Marilyn. Great. Glad you're joining. Thank you for joining. Stay safe there in Nova Scotia. So that's what we're doing here. Okay, so now I'm going to use the whole thing. Right? I really like a lot of lemon in mine. I hope they will too. So I'm cutting my lemon in half. And you know me, I don't have one of those fancy squeezers. So it's a knife, it's a fork, and a strainer. If you notice, I have a strainer in a little dish. And I actually ordered a little juicer from Avon, strangely enough. So hopefully that will enhance kind of what I'm doing here. Okay, so I have quite a bit of juice. Look at that. I'm going to put that all in there. I'm going to add, now, I think I said about a half a cup, but I can't remember exactly. So we're just going to add this mayonnaise. I think I'm going to try out 3 tablespoons and stir that up in here, and then have a look and taste that flavor, see if we've got enough. Again, take your time with the stirring. I like to go fast in lots of things. This is one of the areas that you need to take your time. Hi, Joan. Welcome. Good to see you. That lady I used to call Mrs. O'Brien when I was younger. Mrs. LeDrew, actually. Okay, that's coming together nicely. I'm going to squeeze another lemon to go in there. I want it to be a little more lemony. So hope you like that too. Ta-da. Lemon in here. A little more lemon. And it will create, the lemon, the acidity will create a little bit of a weeping. Those cells will release their moisture and create a little weeping so that you have a softness for those vegetables. That's the purpose of that particular, the acid there. Not only does it work for the salt perception, but it really does a great job of softening things like cabbage, where, you know, sometimes you go, yeah. And of course that broccoli, right? Those stalks are hard. Okay, and a little salt, you know, add a little salt, even though it's salt perception. Certainly can add pepper if you like. I'm not going to, because I don't really want to disturb the external look of this. Okay, this is looking great. I need to find myself a little tasting spoon. Another piece of this. Excuse me. Okay, so that's looking good. If you'd like to add a little garlic, you can certainly add some parsley to it, amp it up in all kinds of different ways. So that's set to go. I'm going to turn that out into my dish here. I like to kind of contrast the colors. I have this blue dish, and I've got some of this green, wonderful green vegetables. And how great is that going to look when we get going for our supper? Yes, absolutely. Use some white pepper if you like to have that as well. So I have myself my food in the dish, and I'm just going to put this to the side, clean up my area. I'm going to come back and get this. It's like some kind of infomercial or something. Wash your hands again and make sure that you have your area all cleaned. We're now going to go back to our meat. Postmasters. Hello, Postmasters. Postmasters. That reminds me, we're going to be working with the Postmasters at the Christmas at the Studio in Corner Brook on the 28th of November. And we are going to have our own little table there with all of my new bakery mixes. I have a line here. I've got 3 cookie mixes. I've got some muffin mixes. And now I have not only do I have one dessert, which is the sticky toffee I've been putting in. I have apple kuchen, which is an apple cake mix. Absolutely, dump go. You've got yourself a fine dessert for that. We'll have all those at the Christmas at the Studios. I will also be running a little bit of a raffle that we will we'll raffle off a box of all of our preserves. I'm sure that many of you have seen them or sampled of them. You can tell we've been sampling ours as well. And there's 5 of those. We'll put that out on Facebook, and in 2 weeks' time, we'll actually draw right here live for the winner. So you come to the studio, you can sign up there, but we'll also have opportunity on Facebook Live. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, in Canada, US, you can win a gift box of all of our preserves. So now let's start with our, let's get on to our steak. And before that, let's have a quick look at our potatoes. Yeah, they're looking good. I'm going to turn it up to 400, give it a bit of a boost. I want to make sure that that steak is going to sear on the outside and cook in the center. So off we go. Over here, I'll move some of my gear out of the way. I'm all set to go. I'm going to put a little bit of oil. Now, in the oil, I'm going to use a little bit of vegetable oil, but olive oil actually heats a lot higher. So if you have olive oil, use that. Okay, and my thing's going to turn on here. We want to get this as hot as we can without having it, smoke, let's say. So we're gonna just wait for a minute. I'm gonna grab my meat over here that's been sitting. And yes, I've been sitting at room temperature. And of course, that meat looks pretty good now. It's hard to tell if, it's been deteriorated. But, if I scrape some aside, I can see that there probably is a little bit of work of this marinade on my meat. And I'm so excited to see what we could do with this. Won't take us very long. And our potatoes are still cooking in any case. Just wait for this to come on through here. We had a little shipment from the postmasters this week. I didn't finish my thought on that, and got ourselves some of these amazing chocolate chip cookies. I know you'll drool over those, and some babkas, and they too will have a whole plethora of goodies at the Christmas at the Studio in Corner Brook. And we're going to be doing a cafe, so you'll be able to get individuals and boxes of all the goodies that they provide. It'll be an exciting time. And they've got chocolate bombs coming as well. I don't know if everyone's excited about the chocolate bombs, but I heard that they're a really exciting thing these days, particularly for the kids looking for hot chocolate. So that's what we're going to be up to. It's going to be a great event for us all. So just waiting for this to heat up. Now, how do you know when it's done? Well, you want it to be smoking just a smidge. You want, if you add a little water to it, which we don't advise because typically then the oil spits. And then, you've got an opportunity to burn yourself. So that's never a good thing. So how did we make out with the mayo? Did anybody try out their mayo and see what they see if it looks good for them? Okay. All right, mine is spitting. Can you tell? I'm going to give it a go here. I don't want a whole lot of that marinade on there, but I don't want it not. Normally we would dry our meat, but this time I want this to sear off. I want some of that mustard flavor in my meat. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Okay, change your tongs so that you are not going to contaminate your meat. I've got another set of tongs here. The heat will start to work on this right away and kill any bacteria that'll be there. Of course, the acid is also a bactericide, and it will look after a lot of bacteria there too. So acid does a whole pile of different things. It looks after how long the meat will last. It will kill off any bacteria that's going to be harmful to you. We typically call those pathogens. And then can you put sugar in the mayonnaise? You could. I wouldn't put it in the mayonnaise. I'd put it in the dressing, but I wouldn't put it in my base mayonnaise. Do you find it a little sharp for you? Bev, I guess you can put a little bit of sugar if you like in the base so that you feel like you've got a coleslaw. This is a slaw, not necessarily is to be sweet slaw. And you can see I'm trying my best not to touch this. I really want this to sear, brown on the outside. We're going to give it a few minutes to brown and sear on the outside before we touch it. Watch it, don't touch it. Maybe the only reason watching it is, okay, well, do I need to turn down the temperature here? We're not going to do that too much. If you haven't got your thermometer, grab that because we will cook. We will cook to a temperature. We cook to about 155 is medium. It's a sort of medium well. For these type of occasions, you don't really want to cook not low enough. Not too low. Okay, now we're looking a little brown. That's good. Touch. Have a quick look if you have to. And that oil is there. What you will see with some of these cuts of meat, particularly a flank steak, and if the animal has been worked, or their belly, this area in the flank has been worked, you'll see a lot of connective tissue. And then what will happen, it will shrink up. And I have seen a couple of times where this particular flank has gone from, this size to about 3/4. Don't fuss too much about it. We do not want to cook it too long. The other secret about, connective tissue and collagen that we have in there is you either go one way, you don't cook it very long, or you cook it for a long period of time with high humidity. Some people call it low and slow. I actually don't subscribe to that. I actually look for high humidity. And there's some color on the outside of my steak. I have one area here on this side that's not that brown, but we'll see if we can get this browning up all of the way along now. Just waiting for this to brown. And we're going to stick this right into the oven. We're going to be, how long are we on here? 5 minutes? We're going to be 10 minutes. So we're going to be a smidge overtime this week. I hope you don't mind. That's why we did quite a little conversation on some of the other things that we had going on here. And I hope you enjoyed the discussion on potatoes. And really, I always wondered why there were so many potatoes out there. Why would we choose one versus the other? And so there you have it. When I studied years ago, really was about the different levels of starch and what I wanted them to do. And I love to be able to make mashed potatoes and not only have some of the potato water in there, but also add cream, add butter, and still the potatoes will take it. They will take it because the starch molecules unravel, the sugar actually comes out. It creates these fingers to hold on to all of that moisture and loveliness, and you have this smooth, velvety potato. Those white potatoes or the red potatoes or those creamers won't do it for you, even though they're called creamers, right? Go figure. Not quite the right thing. Now, look at that. Lovely brown. So we're just searing this off. We're going to stick this right into the oven, and then we're going to sit and wait. We're going to get ourselves another plate, and hopefully you have some questions we can certainly talk about. Look at that. We'll check our potatoes, get a plate. We'll time this. It won't take very long at all. Maybe 10, maybe 8 minutes, probably. In we go. So now we're just going to wait for that. In the meantime, you can have a look at your coleslaw, and you can see on the bottom, here, it is sweating a little bit, which is fine. That'll create lovely creaminess for you on the bottom. Hopefully you can see that. And it will be great. I mean, it's a great way to get your fiber in there, all of those great vegetables and vitamins for you. Oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed the discussion on potatoes. Certainly, I always wondered, right, about the potatoes when I was younger anyway. And then I, went off potatoes, but why? They're so good for you. Let me get a plate and another cutting board. We're going to cut that meat shortly. The whole concept of resting, I know we talked about resting in the past, and still not sure, other than equilibration of temperature, it really is the only thing that I think about makes sense when you let the meat rest. And it won't get cold because inside is colder than the outside, and they're really just going to equilibrate. So we want a little bit of time to be able to do that. Oh, and I think my guests have arrived. They're coming in for dinner. We've got a few more minutes before certainly can serve them, but I'm going to get some plates ready, and we can get ready to serve those. Okay, let's have a look at the potatoes. I know I'm going to open the oven. Don't worry about it. The oven, temperature should hold. Again, we're looking for equilibration of that meat so that the meat will cook all the way to the center. And we're going to check it with temperature. But first, I'm going to have a quick look at my potatoes, and hopefully they're crispy on the outside. Oh, yes. Oh, God, they're beautiful. Oh, there's always. So my potatoes are done. I'm going to take those out, let them sit back here. Actually, I'm going to move my stuff around. And voila, we have those. The flank steak, you know, is one of those ones that we're going to make a standard recipe in our restaurant. Oh, look at my potatoes. I hope they're the same as yours. Nice big chunks. They're lovely, salty. I am going to add a little salt to the outside. It's going to be some sea salt that I'm going to put on them. And I know sea salt, it does have the same sodium level as regular salt. I hate to break it to you. There may be some impurities which might drop it slightly, but only on a ratio percentage. It still is sodium chloride. So we're going to have a little bit of sea salt. Welcome, everybody. My guests have arrived. They're all looking very hungry as well. So they'll have supper very soon. Hopefully you will too. Okay, and the flank steak is one of those things I'm very fortunate to have. I'm also going to be working on a series of entrees. I didn't mention that before. Wow, they look amazing. I'm glad you think so. Thanks, Joan. And so I'm going to work on a series of entrees that we're going to have ready. Some frozen food entrees that will be from Java Jacks. And the first order will be at the Urban Market. Urban Market 1919 in St. John's on the Marchant Road. Just opened up last week to great response. We have our Java Jacks bakery mixes there, as well as the preserves. And we'll look forward to a long relationship where we're going to have some frozen food entrees there. More likely, we're going to have some that would be two portions. You can have some now, some for later, or for two people at home. One is never enough. You got to have two people, so you're going to have that. So we're going to work on those. Should have those in there shortly, hopefully before Christmas. Christmas is coming. It's amazing. Let's have a little look. I'm going to check the temperature. I think a few minutes have passed. Certainly yes, look at that. It's looking good. So you want it to be 150 to 155 degrees before you consider taking it out of the oven. So I know you can't see what I'm up to, but I can share that my meat is certainly jumping up to that temperature there now. And if it's thicker, of course, it's going to take a little bit longer to get there. If it's thinner, then it won't take any time at all. So to always give you an approximate temperature, particularly at these high temperatures, 450 degrees or 400 degrees is what we jump this up to. So I have another, it's about 135 degrees, so I have another 10 or 15 degrees yet, and before I can take that out and enjoy what that looks like. I don't want to take it out yet. I'm glad you like those too, Kathy. They are really fabulous, and if you can slip them off thinner, or if you get some other potatoes where you cut them in half, toss them in. There's all kinds of different flavors. I've done smoked paprika with the potatoes as well, and a little bit of salt, some chili powder, also fabulous. So look in your cupboard. You have all kinds of things. And last week, of course, we did something quite unusual. We used allspice. So try something a little different. Add some of the things you like and season them up. You'll be surprised at how much you can amp up your vegetables, but particularly potatoes. So potatoes can get pretty darn boring. I'm going to start to take these up. We really are going to be another 2 or 3 minutes on that. That's all. And so I'm going to get these potatoes up on the go, and my coleslaw on the plate here. And I had thought that I was going to make a salad too, but I think we have plenty here. Look at this. This is great. Again, if you have some parsley, throw that on there. It looks, so good. A few potatoes here. Oh yeah, the potatoes look amazing. And you can see that they, on the outside, have a little browning. Certainly you can turn up your oven. If you have a convection oven. Don't forget the temperature changes when you have that air velocity. But what it does, it wicks it wicks the moisture from the outside, the surface of the potatoes, and creates you a crispy exterior faster. So, you know, if you can put it on convection, you'd be a whole lot more ahead. So I have the potatoes and my coleslaw on the plate. Just waiting on the steak. It's going to be great. So we will there. Now, I have seen folks with going to the store and doing steak. I think what I'll do is another occasion we'll talk a lot more about the different cuts of steak, and particularly beef. And I think that might be interesting to folks. Next week, is the steaks. It is a cheaper cut of meat. It's not well understood. People don't, and sometimes, like I said, it will shrink on you, and so you have to be careful. It's cheaper, but it's rare because you only get one of them, one on each side, and they're not that large, so you don't get a whole lot of meat. And they're fairly thin, so ounce per ounce, it's better to kind of go to the back of the animal. But for the money, it's great nutrition. So you'll find it in the grocery store. Nice to know about convection oven. Yeah, I'll try that. Yeah, we tend to just stick with what we know. And sometimes it's easier to stick with what we know, but the convection piece can work so well. Outside, inside flank. No, there's no such thing as inside or outside flank. There is inside and outside cushion. There is inside, outside round. Those are essentially, you know, if you're talking about a hog, it'd be inside, outside round. That would be on the leg of the animal. And so, no, there's no inside or outside round. It's just flank steak. Go and ask the guy at the grocery store for some flank. They'll bring it in for you. They most times end up grinding it up. So it's a good piece of meat for you to have at any time. Good questions. Thank you. Okay, one more check here. And we should be ready to think. Yep, looks like, yep, I'm there, 150, 155. Oh yeah, we're done. Oh my gosh. It's amazing how quickly the temperature will jump up and equilibrate. So, yep, there we go. Look at that. You can create yourself a little steak, a little sauce. Chimichurri sauce is outstanding, which goes with this type of sauce. Okay, so this is what I said against the grain. Let it sit and rest. What I'm going to show you, though, is I want you to see how we slice it. So we're going to slice it on an angle and get that wonderful cut of meat. Look at this. It's so juicy, so perfect. And essentially, you're cutting through all of that connective tissue. So against the grain, if you're a seamstress at all, you know what I'm talking about, right? You're talking about your fabric. The fabric is lined up in a regular pattern, and so is this meat. We're going to cut against the grain. Essentially, then you can cut this with a butter knife. Now, I have that here to go on my plate. Voila, look at that. I mean, we made this in an hour. Honestly, you know, life doesn't get better than that. Have a look at my great food. Maybe sometime you can make a sauce of some kind to go on potato. I like something on mine. Yes, no problem. Next week, I think we're going to do either something fairly simple. Again, probably a chicken a la king. I want to show you how you can get away from Campbell's soup. You can still cheat and use Campbell's soup. But have a look at this meal. It's fabulous. Take some pictures. Please post them. And I'd love to see your comments on our Facebook page. Have a look at our new products on our website at www.jabberjacks.ca/shop. We're also offering Supper Club. I did forget to mention about our Supper Club, but certainly we'll have some Supper Club for December. Already got one booked, so get your name in. Please just email us at info@jabberjacks.ca. Until next week, I'm Colleen Hiscock. Bon appetit.